Hi, Stephen McHugh here, Stephen's Evolution, and welcome back to my channel. In previous videos recently, I talked about how I understand idioms in the English language from an autistic perspective. In the process, I've thought about situations in which certain phrases might be used. This time, I'm taking this idea into foreign languages. French, Spanish, Italian, and German. French is the language I'm most familiar with. Sometimes idioms in those languages can actually be quite easy for me to make sense of, particularly when imagery gives me some kind of clue as to what they mean. I'm going to explore one idiom from each of French, Spanish, Italian, and German, and explore how I try to make sense of them. Let's start with French. Il pleut des corps. The chosen idiom is it's raining cats and dogs. The literal translation is from French is it's raining strings or ropes. On encountering this, it's not necessarily just translating word to word individually and assume that I've understood it. What I do is connect the image to rain resembling strings. What I tend to think is the heavier the rain falls, the more it resembles ropes or strings. So whenever I hear or think about this phrase again, that image of like heavier rain resembling strings or ropes is something for me to associate it with. And it is this which makes it easier for me to remember. Now, let's move on to Spanish. It's a weather-related one. Llueve a mares. It's pouring rain. Well, that's the translation. The literal translation is, it's raining seas. What I would do is think about a situation when someone may actually say this phrase. When I think about it, it's more likely to be used when it's raining, well, pouring with rain, because that's what it translates to. It's pouring with rain. My memory connection here becomes like with it raining, it's raining seas. As you can imagine, seas are lots of water, and when it's raining heavily, there is lots of water falling. That's what gives me something more meaningful to recall this than simply committing the definition to memory. And now on to Italian. Fa un freddo cane, which means it's freezing cold. But the literal translation is, it is dog cold. Here, again, I might think about the literal image, but then ask myself, what sort of situation would one use this expression? And when it talks about freezing cold, you can imagine like weather and a wintry scene when like when it snowed. When I try to make the connection here, what I tend to think of is that dogs have fur which help them to keep warm, more like even more so in cold weather. And when weather is like, it said, it's like dog cold, like if a dog was cold, can you imagine how cold we would be? Now, that's what helps it to make sense for me. Like, it's freezing cold. That's what it translates to. And now finally, the next one the next phrase is in German. Ich verstehe nur Bahnhof. What it actually means is someone would say it when they don't understand. The literal translation is, as it happens, is I can only think of the train station or something along those lines. This is an example for me of how an expression can create an unusual image when translated to English. I tend to think about the context in which a German speaker may use this. To help me remember it, I associate it with thinking about the train station and thinking about how I can get a train back home. And now, comparing the four, what have I noticed? I've noticed that all four are different languages. And they can all use some similar strategies when it comes to trying to understand idioms. I think about the literal image, a situation where an expression is used, and I find an association to help me try and remember the meanings more easily, making an unfamiliar expression feel much less random. What I have found interesting about idioms in foreign languages, is that translating them word for word does not always give you an actual meaning. The individual words might suggest one thing, but as it turns out, the whole expression communicates something entirely different. And that's when context can become important. Instead of asking, what do these words mean? I can ask, why would someone say these words in a particular situation? Such a question, I find, can sometimes give me a much better clue that I find easier. The examples I have chosen are from French, Spanish, Italian, and German, where I show how imagery, context, and personal associations can help me to understand and recall them more easily. In my next video, I aim to explore foreign languages again and idioms that may be more difficult for me to work out. Those I find can be particularly interesting because sometimes I find literal meaning gives me very few clues about what a particular expression may actually mean. Thanks for watching.